Yeah.
Okay. All right, we will call the January 25th, 2024 meeting of the Parker Planning Commission to order at 7:01. Would you please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Roll call. Absent are Ileana, Leland, Nick, and Angela. Eric Riegers seated for Ileana, and Jane is seated for Leland. Other members are present. Are there any additions to or deletions from the agenda?
No, sir, there are not.
All right. Approval of the minutes. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes from January 11th, 2024?
No.
Is there a motion to approve?
I move we approve the minutes from the last meeting.
I'll second.
It's been moved by Ruth Ann, seconded by Eric, that we approve the minutes from the January 11th meeting. And I'll call the question. Eric?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Ruth Ann?
Aye.
Jane?
Aye.
Chair is aye. Passes unanimously.
I'm going to change my name to Eric.
We all should. All right. Next, a public hearing. Public hearing 6A, the Looking Glass Segment 2A, filing 21 and 22 sketch and preliminary plans. We will open the public hearing at 7:03. And Julia, we are all yours.
Good evening, Commissioners. I haven't seen you in a while, so nice to see you again, and happy belated New Year. Before you this evening is the Looking Glass Segment 2A, filings 21 and 22, sketch and preliminary plan.
There we go. Thank you.
The applicant, Dreamfinder Homes, is requesting the approval of the sketch and preliminary plans for the development of 150 paired home lots. The subject property is 27.71 acres and is generally located on the south side of Stroh Road, west of Chambers Road. The site is currently undeveloped and will be bounded to the north by the future construction of Stroh Road, to the south by Long Rider Parkway, to the west by the Oak Gulch open space and future single-family homes, and to the east by Fall Ridge Street and future commercial. The Town Council previously approved the Hess Ranch Plan Development Fourth Amendment zoning and the Looking Glass Segment 2A sketch and preliminary plans. They laid out both Tracks A2 and Tracks KK for future platting. The proposed filing is zoned mixed use. It's highlighted in that teal bolded line above and located within Planning Area 12, PA 12 of the Hess Ranch Plan Development. Duplex units are an allowed use in the mixed use zone. PA 12 allows for a maximum of 154 dwelling units. The approval of the sketch and preliminary plans does not formally create the lots or associated improvements. Instead, the approval of the applications will allow for the applicant to execute a final plat consistent with the sketch and preliminary plans. The final plat will formally create the lots and associated improvements. The proposed sketch and preliminary plans are consistent with the previous Town Council approved sketch and preliminary plans for Segment 2A. Heights, density, and setbacks for the proposed housing project are required to be consistent with the town's design standards and those outlined within the PD guide, and will be reviewed during the building permitting process. The project proposes 150 lots for paired homes, a paired home product, consistent with the zoning and density requirements of the PD. A private park is located on Track C, which is shaded in green here. It looks more teal, I think, on your screen. At the southern end of the neighborhood and totals 2.737 acres. The park is designed with amenities for the age-qualified neighborhood and will be submitted with a future site application. The park will consist of trail loops, a pool and clubhouse, pickleball court, open play lawn, bag toss, and bocce ball, and a shade structure. An additional 3.235 acres of open space is also proposed, which is above that required by the Segment 2A sketch and preliminary plans. Within Tract B, which is shaded purple, is 0.658 acres of landscaping and trail, and associated amenities, including benches and dog waste receptacles. Additional required parks and open space beyond those incorporated in this proposal are being satisfied through the parks and open space dedicated in separate filings as outlined in the Looking Glass Segment 2A sketch and preliminary plans. A final plat for the project will not be recorded until all the parks and open space required for the proposed 150 units are provided within those affiliated filings. Open space immediately to the west and adjacent to the filing along Oak Gulch, shaded in pink, is 3.7783 acres and is being dedicated in filing 16. To the southwest of the site, adjacent to the development, is Tract QQ, which is shaded in yellow in filing 17, which is also a 1.0599 acre park and will serve the residents in the adjacent communities, including the one that we're looking at tonight. Staff has reviewed the proposal and has determined that the project is consistent with the master plan. The proposal provides adequate access, infrastructure, drainage facilities, and design considerations, and utilities. And utility providers have confirmed capacity and availability. All referral agency comments have been addressed or will be addressed at the time of the final plat, and the public notice requirements have been satisfied. Therefore, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission recommend Town Council approve the Looking Glass Segment 2A filings 21 and 22 sketch and preliminary plans. This concludes my report. The applicant's representative is here tonight and also has a brief presentation, and I am available for any questions you may have.
Questions for Julia?
I just have one quick question. I'm confused. Could you clarify the difference between the two parks on the south end? And when you talk about the age-related park, is that because this plan with the duplex homes is for an age-restricted residential area? I'm confused about that.
Sure thing. That's my understanding, is that the filings before you would be age restricted, and I'm sure the applicant can speak more to that and what that demographic may be. What you see in green is a part of this filing, and that's going to be a park restricted to the residents of this filing. It's age restricted.
Okay.
It'll have the bocce ball courts, the shade structures, the pool, the clubhouse. The reason I bring up the other open space and parks that you're seeing here is because parks within the whole of Looking Glass are fulfilled throughout it. So we calculate park requirements based on unit count. So it's 150 times 0.0239. That, I don't think that the park they're providing, I don't have the number in front of me specifically, I can find it in my notes here, meets that exact, but all of the adjacent parks and in the whole of the Looking Glass development meet the unit count requirements. So we showed the yellow and the pink to show you that there's a large swath of open space, almost 4 acres in the pink, that it, while not in this filing, is immediately adjacent to and provides access to those residents. And then the yellow, while also not in this filing, is a park that's walkable right next door.
Okay, thanks so much.
So I just, on a clarity perspective, age qualified is more of a marketing tool and not a restriction by the town.
The town doesn't covenant or have a deed restriction. That would be up to the applicant and the owner if they wanted to, place a restriction on their
Understood.
land.
Thank you.
Julie, I have a very technical question. I understand that it's the whole of Looking Glass that we're looking to have the parks requirement. Does this happen a lot where the parks requirement is satisfied outside of the actual filing?
With large filings like this, yes, because the open space is spread out. This actually provides, that purple is a park site that they aren't counting towards their park requirement. So if you added that in, it would meet that requirement. So there's actually an excess of parks within Looking Glass than what they're required to be providing.
Unrelated perhaps to the question at hand, if this filing were ever to get re-subdivided, say in 50 years when, the subdivision is becoming obsolete, how does that work? I mean, as far as parks and all that stuff.
We'd have to look at the code 50 years from now and see how they're calculating that out. This is required to be provided. It's a part of the plat. So until that would be replatted, you would look at the code at that time and determine if you needed to reallocate additional open space or additional parks.
Thank you.
No further questions? Okay. Does the applicant want to step forward? Please state your name and address for the record.
Steve Allen, 916 Steel Street, Denver, Colorado, 80206.
Yeah, your mic's not on. You look down on the stem. Yep, there you go.
Steve Allen, 916 Steel Street, Denver, Colorado, 80206.
Thank you.
Can I point? Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Julia, and the Town of Parker staff for bringing our sketch and preliminary plans to public hearing. Good evening. I am Steve Allen, a landscape architect with the Henry Design Group. Thank you, Planning Commission, for the opportunity to present the Ranch at Looking Glass, filings 21 and 22. Tonight, I am joined by Cole Franklin with Dreamfinders Homes, the developer and home builder for segment 2A and 2B at Looking Glass, as well as Eric McDaniel, the civil engineer with EMK Consultants. So Julia did an excellent job of getting us oriented to the site, so I'm just going to breeze through these here. Our site is shown in orange, kind of at the center left of the slide, just south and east of the Ruderhess Reservoir.
You need to aim it towards.
And again, here's the Hess Ranch PD, and we're shown highlighted here. I had said I was going to speed through. I might as well keep talking. Can I point to you? Okay, so this is the development plan for Looking Glass. Segment 1, east of Spirit Trail Boulevard, is in the final stages of construction. Segment 2A, east of Spirit Trail Boulevard and south of Spirit Trail Parkway, are in the final stages of plat approvals for the single-family lots, neighborhood parks, and community park. Segment 2B, the planning areas shown along Spirit Trail Parkway are currently on the second submittal of the sketch and preliminary plans. Looking Glass filing 21 and 22 in segment 2A consists of 27 acres with 3 points of vehicular access. The 150 lots within the ranch at Looking Glass are typically 35 feet wide by 120 feet deep. Each home fronts on a public street with a full-depth driveway providing access to a 2-car garage. The driveway apron, in combination with the garages, provides 4 parking spaces for each home. Additional guest parking is available on the public streets. And I think this will help summarize what the questions about parks earlier. So the majority of 2A was, we're kind of working through our final plat approvals, including a community park, and you can see 2 neighborhood parks adjacent. But in total, we will have 11 miles of trails, 3 community parks, as well as 12 neighborhood parks in the community as a whole. The ranch at Looking Glass will be integrated into these extensive park and trail networks. This neighborhood will include 6.63 acres of landscape tracts and amenities with 393 trees. Landscape buffers ranging from 25 to 75 feet are provided along all collector streets. Privacy fences will be utilized in areas with a buffer of less than 50 feet, and open rail will be used along all other open spaces. This is Track B with a meandering path through the open space with seating nodes, lawn areas, informal gathering areas, and open areas for play, which would feature sod lawns as well. Additionally, ornamental trees will be used to accent the pathways with seasonal interest, canopy trees for shade, and mixed evergreens to help buffer the adjacent homes. And this is specific to the adjacent park and amenity center. And this is how the neighborhood was being satisfied with the park requirements. Located south side of Galloping Way, a private park is located on Track C at the southern end of the neighborhood. The park will likely include a pool, clubhouse, parking, pickleball courts, and shade structures, bocce, and a putting green course. This plan will be submitted during the final plating process. Ranch House Park will be located within 100 feet of Galloping Way and include a playground, bocce ball, shade shelters with picnic tables, a large open lawn, and connections to the trail system. Thank you for your time this evening. We kindly request that the Planning Commission recommend Town Council approve Looking Glass Segment 2A, filings 21 and 22 sketch and preliminary plans.
Questions for the applicant?
What?
You can go ahead.
Oh, the pickleball courts, are those adjacent to any of the homes? Or would those be, how far are they planned to be away from the homes?
Do you want to answer that, or?
I don't have a direct measurement, but yeah.
I also don't remember, the overall sketch and preliminary plan for 2A dictated the amenity provisions within those parks, so in that next filing, we would look at that. I don't recall a pickleball court off the top of my head, so it would be consistent with the sketch 2A.
He's mentioned pickleball courts several times, that's why I'm concerned.
Right.
So-
Because there's noise issues with
No,
regards to
understandable.
pickleball.
And
Specific to the pickleball courts, it's not part of this application. It'll be submitted with the site plan application for Track C. So I think at that time, we could address offset issues.
Okay.
Other questions?
I'll just say, Ruth Ann, I think that was part of my confusion in my head with off-site parks, integrated sort of, but not really into this filing. It's in the whole subdivision.
Okay, no further questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any further questions for Julia?
No.
All right, as this is a public hearing, we invite any members of the public who wish to address this particular item that's before us to step forward to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Seeing none, we will close the public comment portion of the meeting. Any further questions?
No.
And we will close the public hearing at 7:19. Commissioner discussion?
I've always been impressed with the work that the Looking Glass Development has done and the work that the staff has done to ensure that it proceeds the way it was originally laid out to us. I'm in support of this. I think paired homes is a great way to increase the density of housing without going overboard, and so I am in support.
I have nothing to add. I'm in support. This is consistent with what we were expecting and what we've been communicated, so.
I agree. I believe this application meets all of the requirements.
I agree as well, and I appreciate the additional commentary on the park requirements going across the entire area.
I'm in support as well. We have two motions on this, folks. So do we have a recommended, or we have somebody that's going to?
I'm scrolling to it.
Okay.
I move the Planning Commission recommend Town Council approve the requested Looking Glass Segment 2A filings 21 and 22 sketch plan.
Second?
It's been moved by Eric, seconded by Ruth Ann, that Planning Commission recommend Town Council approve the requested Looking Glass Segment 2A filings 21, 22 sketch plan. Do you have a motion on the second one?
I move the Planning Commission recommend Town Council approve requested Looking Glass Segment 2A filings 21 and 22 preliminary plan.
I'll second.
Moved by Ruth Ann, seconded by Eric. The Planning Commission recommend Town Council approve the requested Looking Glass Segment 2A filings 21 and 22 preliminary plan. We'll call the question on the first one. Eric?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Ruth Ann?
Aye.
Jane?
Aye.
Chair is aye. That one passes unanimously. And on the second one?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Ruth Ann?
Aye.
Jane?
Aye.
Chair is aye. That passes unanimously as well. All right. Now we will, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Julia.
Now the fun begins.
All right, next we have public hearing 6B, Compark Village PD Amendment Number 6 rezoning. And we will open the public hearing at 7:22. And Stacy, we're all yours.
All right. Good evening, Chairman and Planning Commission members. Before you tonight is the Compark Village Plan Development Sixth Amendment. So the Compark Village Plan Development, which is highlighted in yellow, the entire PD on this map, is approximately 390 acres consisting of a mixed-use development located on both sides of E470 and primarily west of Chambers Road. The majority of the planned development was annexed and zoned into the town of Parker in 2007. Several additions and amendments have taken place between 2007 and today. The subject properties of tonight's rezoning, which are highlighted in blue on this map, are bordered to the north by the institutional use of Rocky Vista University, to the south by Happy Canyon Creek, to the west by vacant land and Parker Performing Arts School and other light industrial uses known as the Edge 470, and to the east by residential uses and vacant commercial land. So the applicant has submitted a rezoning application for approximately 26.3 acres of property located within the Compark Village PD on the west side of the intersection of Chambers Road and Compark Boulevard. So more particularly, the request is to, on the north side of Compark Boulevard, the applicant is proposing to remove approximately 4.8 acres from the commercial retail planning area, which is Planning Area 9, and add this area into the business employment planning area, or Planning Area 2. In addition, on the south side of Compark Boulevard, the applicant is proposing to remove approximately 13.7 acres from the commercial retail planning area, which is Planning Area 10, and add this area into the business employment area, creating a new Planning Area 10A. And then third, add a data center overlay to the 18.5 acres proposed to be rezoned that we just talked about. An additional 3.3 acres zoned commercial retail located at the southwest corner of Chambers Road and Compark Boulevard, as well as an additional 4.5 acres of land within Planning Area 10, for a total of 26.3 acres. The data center overlay would allow for data centers as a use by right subject to certain additional standards within the planned development. The data center overlay is identified with the hatch on this map. In your staff report, there was an error in acreages, and they have been corrected in the slideshow. Okay, so the Parker 2035 master plan identifies the property as employment district within the E470 corridor, which recommends professional, medical, corporate offices, light industrial uses, flex office, research and development facilities, and a higher education campus. Light industrial uses in the character area are not intended to include primary use as warehousing, outdoor storage, or mini storage uses. The primary uses in the character area are also intended to attract a variety of complementary uses, such as business and personal services, convenience retail, childcare, and restaurants. These complementary uses may be located near the intersection of Chambers and Compark Boulevard, but should be clearly ancillary to scale and the primary employment purpose of the character area. So that's directly from the master plan. The business employment planning area of the Compark Village Plan Development focuses on light industrial employment uses which align with the desired uses for the area described in the master plan. Expanding the business employment planning area will allow for the potential to expand the town's employment base. A data center use would be a significant private investment and would benefit from the property's proximity to an existing core electrical substation. However, data center uses generally do not provide significant employment, and the applicant has not submitted information as part of the rezoning application to the contrary. Data center uses are more passive from a use perspective and do not generate much activity, employment, sales tax, or traffic. There are 9 criteria used to evaluate a rezoning. These criteria ensure that a need exists, the proposal is consistent with the master plan, and there are adequate services to serve the proposed site. After evaluating the zoning information, staff has determined that the applicant has submitted documentation that outlines conformance with some of the required criteria. For the remaining criteria, the applicant shall present tonight on how this application meets those criteria. Okay. Staff has reviewed the proposal and has determined that utility providers have confirmed capacity and availability, and all public notice requirements have been satisfied. The Planning Commission may make a determination that the proposal meets the 9 criteria for rezoning based on staff's analysis and the applicant's supplemental presentation tonight. This concludes staff's presentation. I'm available to answer any questions you may have. The applicant is here and has a presentation for you as well.
I have a question.
Okay.
Stacy, can you tell me which of the 9 criteria staff felt were not met by the initial application and is going to be supplemented tonight?
Yes, so as outlined in the staff report that is before you tonight, we identified, I think, 4 that were satisfied in the applicant's proposal and staff agreed with. Some of the criteria that we don't know if it was satisfied is proposal number 1, which is a need exists for the proposal.
That you felt that was not met?
Correct.
Okay.
The other couple was number 2, that the particular parcel of ground is indeed the correct site for the proposed development. Number 4, which is there have been significant changes in the area to warrant a zone change. And then number 8, which is consistent with the master plan.
Okay.
Other questions for Stacy? Or we'll ask the applicant's presenter to come forward, please. State your name and address for the record.
We're on. Thank you, Commissioners. Appreciate you taking the time this evening. My name is Larry Jacobson. I'm a principal at Westside Investment Partners, and we are the owner and applicant for the rezoning this evening. Are you gonna? Okay. So we have our team, most of which are here this evening. Henry Design Group, which was also the planner for the earlier Looking Glass preliminary plan. Fox Tuttle, Traffic Engineering, Caliber Civil Engineering, Otten Johnson, which is our land use and legal consultant, and then EPS, which prepared the fiscal impact study, which I think is in your package regarding the rezoning. So just to give you some history, and I think Stacy covered a lot of this, this PD goes all the way back to the 90s. It was originally designed by the Vickers family, and the Vickers family started working through this. Infrastructure started being installed in the 90s. So originally it was in the county. So you can see there were 5 amendments in the county. Then it came into the town. It was annexed and zoned into the town. Now we're up to the Sixth Amendment. So, many things have changed since the original conception of this PD, and we're here to talk about the next change to it, which we will discuss momentarily. So again, I think Stacy covered a lot of this, but we're proposing to rezone about 4.8 acres adjacent to the Nick's convenience store, if you guys know where that is. It's from commercial retail to business employment, creating a 9.3 acre site there that's available for business employment. Then across the street on the other side of Compark Boulevard, rezoning 13.72 acres from retail to business employment, while retaining the zoning on the hard corner for the 3.3 acres at the corner of Compark and Chambers. However, we are also proposing a data center overlay over all of this property that you see, about 26 acres, which would permit data centers to be developed in this area, including the 3.3 acres at the hard corner, provided that it's developed in conjunction with PA 10A, which is the 13.72 acres. So I know Stacy mentioned in her staff report and just now discussion of the 9 rezoning criteria. So we have a pretty extensive presentation on that tonight to make sure that we can address all these issues. There's also a memorandum from Otten Johnson that goes even deeper into this than what we're going to present tonight. But they're available here if you have any questions about any of the compliance. So criteria 1, this was one of the ones which Stacy and staff wanted us to focus on. So a need exists for the proposal. So I think the first thing is that this land has been lying vacant and dormant for, 20 plus years. When it was originally conceived, I think probably it was zoned commercial retail at the intersection of Compark and Chambers, because people anticipated that someday maybe there'd be a power center or some kind of major retail development in that location. So utilizing that land for retail is obviously, that ship has sailed. Rezoning it to something that's business employment allows for the town to capture new employment base, minimize commute distances for existing residents, encourage existing residents to move, or encourage residents to move to the town of Parker and spend their money in retail and other sales tax generating uses. So that's the first bullet point. The second bullet point, similarly, it's an opportunity to develop large infill sites. So, we have about 26 acres here, which can turn into, a lot of quality employment. We're also introducing the data center use via the data center overlay. So the town really never had a data center classification in the zoning code. I think this is the first time. In some other jurisdictions, it's just considered like light industrial flex, but we've gone into detail to describe what a data center might look like and made a number of concessions, which we'll get to as part of the rezoning application in excess of the existing PD standards. And finally, there's just an increased need for data centers. Between AI and cloud storage, data centers are one of the strongest sectors in the entire real estate industry. So data centers are growing at an astronomical pace. And as we'll discuss later, they provide some really unique benefits to the town and its residents. So that's criteria number 1. Criteria number 2 is, again, one of the ones that staff wanted us to focus on. So is this the correct site for the proposed development? Well, yes. First of all, it's consistent with the surrounding planning areas and has natural transitions within Compark. Number 2, it's literally directly adjacent to an existing core substation. That substation has capacity. It can grow Corps is prepared to invest the money in the substation to allow the substation to serve a data center use, which demands quite a bit of electricity. We're also, for a data center, or for light industrial for that matter, the proximity to high-speed fiber adjacent to E470 is a really big selling point. All of this needs to communicate, particularly a data center. And the last thing is it's a low-traffic opportunity for a site with challenging access. So the corner of Chambers and Compark, the access in and out of Chambers at best would probably be a right-in, right-out. We have the intersection of Compark Boulevard. Then as you're going east, you have the bridge over Happy Canyon Creek. There just isn't room in that area for additional access. So the in and out in that location for retail is less than ideal, which would hamper retail development in that area, candidly. And then on Compark Boulevard, the first access would be a right-in, right-out as well. And then the full access would be further, I guess, southwest of where the first access is. So the first access would be across the street from the Nick's convenience store, right-in, right-out. Number 3, we can talk about, there was no error in the original zoning. Number 4 is another one of staff's requests, so we're going to do a deeper dive into this. So the proposed rezoning will add employees in light industrial and flex development while retaining 3.3 acres of retail unless a data center is built in connection with the 3.3 acres. So if 3.3 acres remains retail commercial, perhaps at some point it will develop as retail despite the limited access, and that will provide sales tax revenue to the town. To the extent a data center is developed, however, the data center will generate 30 to 50 new employees and consultants, while also contributing 1.5 to 1.7 million in net revenue. So that's after allocation of service costs, which the town expends to serve that property. So it's very fiscally positive for the town. The background of that is that data centers utilize a tremendous amount of electricity. Having the core substation directly adjacent is very efficient. Having the fiber there is very efficient. The electric bills that everyone in town pays to core includes 7% that goes to the town. So there's a franchise fee and there's a sales tax component. A data center could have an electric bill somewhere in the $30 million a year range. So if you do the math, that's about $2 million, $2.1 million in gross revenues, and the net revenues would then be 1.5 to 1.7. So we talked a little bit earlier about the change in market conditions. So the demand for retail land has diminished dramatically. There aren't many power centers anymore. To the extent that there's retail, it's service-oriented. So the world has really changed after the internet and Amazon and online shopping. So the demand for retail land has changed dramatically. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the data center development is one of the strongest real estate sectors, basically related to AI and cloud storage. So number 5, I think the staff was comfortable with us satisfying that, but I'll just talk about how this is a existing developed area. It's been developed for 20 plus years. There are no changes that would be required as a result of this use. Number 6, again, I think staff was comfortable with that, but I'll go through this. There is no new infrastructure that needs to be built for this. Everything would be on-site, so it would be done by private development or a metro district, or in the case of the substation, it would be Core Electric. Per the EPS fiscal impact analysis, the data center will generate 1.5 to 1.7 million in net revenue, and then the town can take that net revenue and spend it elsewhere in town. I believe it goes into the general fund. So however, town council and staff determined to allocate that net revenue, that's a matter of policy for the town. All right, number 7, environmental impacts. Again, I think staff was satisfied with that, but all of the infrastructure for drainage, et cetera, is in. We don't anticipate any environmental impact as a result of this. Okay, and then number 8 was another one which staff wanted us to focus on. So this is a little bit longer than some of the other items, but let's dive in. So general land use designation. So this is putting forth the proposition that we are consistent with the master plan maps, goals, and policies. So, the general land use plan designation, it's an employment district, Stacy mentioned, so light industrial, flex, R&D, among others. Complementary uses like convenience retail should be ancillary in scale and purpose. So that applies to us. The general land use plan is focused primarily on physical form and development pattern. Data center use or light industrial use are consistent with the recommended primary uses in physical form and the resulting development pattern. And I would just add to that, there's a lot of flex industrial or large building space in the Compark business park. So whatever ends up getting developed under this zoning would be consistent with what's already out there. Yeah, I think we're on. Uh-oh. Okay, so contribute to the town's balance of land uses. Again, light industrial is a positive land use for the town in terms of employment, and if it becomes a data center, again, that's a new land use which the town doesn't currently have. Clear ability to provide quality services. Again, this is all developed property. Even if it's light industrial flex space, it doesn't demand the services that a lot of other uses like retail would demand. And if it's a data center, it would demand even fewer services. Significant opportunity for expansion of the town's economic base. This is a demonstrably fiscally positive project if it's a data center. Support towards the town trail system. We'll get to this later, but we have agreed to a trail amenity adjacent to Happy Canyon Trail as part of this development. That is not in the PD. That's something which we as the developers agreed to do per staff request. Transition between different land uses. Again, I think this land use in this area is compatible with all the other land uses existing in Compark or adjacent to Compark. Community appearance and design. The PD guide has a lot of demands on what buildings can look like in Compark. And again, if it's a data center, we have agreed to significantly enhanced architectural guidelines and massing, windows, various things that will interrupt the massing, setbacks, enhanced landscaping, et cetera. So we'll get to that after a couple slides. Jobs and economic viability, again, I think this is a new use for if it's a data center, and even if it's light industrial, it creates new jobs, new types of uses for the town of Parker. Open space, we talked about the trail amenity at Happy Canyon Trail. So those are all of the reasons why we believe we comply with number 8. And then number 9, I think the staff was satisfied with that. But there are no new residential units. The water and sewer is provided by Stonegate Village Metro District. There's ample capacity. One thing I just want to mention, if it does become a data centers actually don't use much water. In fact, they use less than like an industrial use because they have a closed cooling system. So they spend extraordinary sums on the cooling system for the building, and it's a environmentally friendly closed system that uses very little water. And last is the Core Electric. The Core Electric is ready, willing, and able to provide additional capacity in this location to serve the data center. And, the Core Electric mission is they're a nonprofit, they're a cooperative. So this type of use really helps reduce rates everywhere in town or everywhere in the core system because they have such a big user and they can take advantage of the economies of scale. So that completes our deep dive into the 9 rezoning criteria. So now if we can move on to what are the benefits of this? Why should you recommend to council that they approve it? So it refreshes this old zoning, which we talked about, to allow business employment versus retail. So that promotes economic development, employment, and it's in conformity with an existing business light industrial park. The data center overlay is an enormous benefit, assuming that a data center gets built. The fiscal impact is extremely positive. On a recurring basis, the one-time use tax, according to the fiscal study, is $1.35 million, so that would be taxes on the construction of the data center. And then personal property taxes are over $1 million over a 10-year period. That would be taxes on all the servers, all the personal property within the data center. I mentioned earlier that we have agreed for the data center overlay to enhance development standards. So again, the architecture will be more articulated and more interesting than under the existing PD. And the existing PD is fairly rigorous. So we've agreed to increase setbacks from Compark Boulevard and Chambers Road, 50 and 100 feet. So that's a significant departure from the existing PD. And then in that area, in that setback, there will be enhanced landscaping, both at the corner of Compark Boulevard and along Chambers. And then the trail amenity, so this would be a shade structure right directly adjacent to the Happy Canyon Trail, kind of just south of the bridge, the Chambers Bridge over Happy Canyon Creek. So shade structure, seating for 8 and a bench, bike repair station, dog waste station. If you have a dog waste station, you need to have a trash receptacle. Then enhanced landscaping, and this trail amenity will not be maintained by the town. It will be owned and maintained by the property owner or a metro district. I also want to acknowledge the letters of support which we've received. So we've received letters of support from Mike Wade, former mayor, the Parker Chamber of Commerce as an entity, John Rowlett, who's on the chamber and wrote a personal letter of support, Justin Rayburn, who's involved in the town, Fountainhead Commercial, and then the Metro Denver EDC also wrote a letter of support. And I think all of these people are espousing the notion that if a data center comes to the town of Parker, it's extremely positive for the town in terms of fiscal impact. That concludes our presentation. If you have any questions for me or anyone on the team, we're certainly available.
Questions?
I have a couple. You referenced the 1.5 to 1.7 million net income. Over what period of time? That's the time frame for that net income was never given.
2025, 2035.
So that's over 10 years, the
Yeah.
1.5 and the 1.7.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, candidly, the expected life of this would be well in excess of 10 years, but we just picked a 10-year period for the fiscal impact study.
Okay. Could you give me an idea of what kind of building scale we're talking about for one of these data centers? And are the overlay, because it's on different sides of the street, it probably isn't going to have a bridge across.
No, it will
So,
not.
so what kinds of size of buildings, square footage of buildings are we talking about here for this sort of thing?
The building on the larger lot would be in the 250,000 square foot range. So to give you a scale, an idea of scale, the edge buildings are roughly 100,000 square feet along 470. So, two of those, 2 to 2.5 of those. And then the other site across the street, the 9-acre site, could hold, they haven't done a site plan, but maybe 130,000 square feet, so similar.
About a Costco size.
Yeah, that's about right.
That's what I've got for this gentleman.
Okay. Down here? No. Jane?
So I'm a little bit confused. I need a little bit of education. I'm looking to see the light industrial is what you are looking to go to instead of retail for most of this, correct? If you're not talking about the data overlay, you're just talking about the underlying zoning.
Which would be business employment. So likely it would be flex light industrial space. There are other uses that are permitted under that. Let me just find the notes, or Stacy, if you can help me out. What are the permitted uses under BE?
So BE allows for a variety of uses, including some commercial uses. And then it also adds in those light industrial, flex, research and development, more of those sort of light industrial uses.
So there's like a big, large buildings in general allowed in the underlying zoning.
Correct. And the underlying zoning wouldn't restrict the size of the building. Any use could be large. Just for size-wise, the new King Supers you're seeing are about 110,000 square feet. So we don't restrict the size per the zoning. But yes, what you're seeing out in the Com Park area, the stuff that's in unincorporated Douglas County as well as the town, are large buildings.
Okay, and then my next question is this. So you're looking to add a data overlay that does not exist in our comprehensive master plan, is that correct?
The data center use is a new use in the town. Again, I think in a lot of jurisdictions, data centers are built pursuant to existing light industrial or flex zoning. In working with staff on bringing this application forward, they asked that we develop a separate standard for data centers, and that's set forth in the data center overlay.
So is that staff's request that you prepare to propose data center overlay?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Further questions?
I have one for Stacy.
Further questions for Stacy?
Yeah. Stacy, I had a question, and it follows right on with what Commissioner Jane here was talking about. Why did you choose to do a data center overlay instead of just considering this a light industrial flex use?
So the reason we wanted to do an overlay is, one, there's a lot of business employment zoned property within the Com Park Village PD. So we didn't want it to just be a permitted use anywhere in the PD. We wanted it to be limited in location. That was the first one. The second one is the town's learning about data centers as they're growing. Through our research, these are very large buildings. And just trying where it's located. As we kind of outlined in the staff report and the presentation, there is existing residential just to the east. And this was supposed to be commercial retail, so just trying to have a softer feel. We don't want just a giant block building right on the hard corner, right across from residents. So trying to create standards that these are more articulated and look more commercial, industrial in nature than a big block building.
That goes to design standards, correct?
Correct.
Okay. In the general flex, industrial flex, what has been the experience of the town in terms of the employment rate in the various industrial flex? I'm sorry, I usually get these questions to you ahead of time so you can research. My apologies.
I would say what we're seeing within the Edge 470 product, which is a new light industrial flexor for buildings, we're getting a variety of tenants going in there. Some of the tenants are bringing lots of jobs, some not so much. So I'd say anywhere from, I would say the buildings over there are about 86,000 square feet. One of the buildings has a pretty substantial user, maybe 100 employees. Some of the other ones, they have more tenant finishes or smaller in nature. I would say maybe 50 to 60 employees.
Okay, thank you.
Eric?
So if you don't put the overlay, the data center overlay on this, can a data center still be built in that space?
A data center is technically not listed. It's not listed as a permitted use within the area. Town, looking at this, has looked at what a data center is and what is the primary use. So what is the use of that space? And so I don't know if it would fit into any of the uses that are listed without the overlay there.
Got it, okay. Yeah, in my mind, right, are we being too restrictive? That's where I was going with that, but appreciate the comment.
Other questions?
I guess
I-
one more question I had too is, with this data center overlay, is there a height restriction on these or in that zoning? Can you clarify what that is?
There is a height restriction in the zoning. And of course, I didn't print it out. I want to
I
say
actually have it up at 60 feet in the BE.
60 feet.
Thanks, Bryce.
And does that height restriction change with the zoning, right? Does the existing zoning have the same restriction and the new zoning will be the same?
Yes. So the commercial retail zoning that is currently on the property is the same height.
Got
And
it.
so with the change, you're not increasing the height.
Got it, thank you.
Jane, did you have? Anybody else?
I had something and now it escapes me.
Oh, one last question, I think. You talked about environmental impact and that there would not be a great environmental impact from this. Because it deals with a lot of electricity and would there be any kind of interference issues with people's cable or, their ability to use other electronic products in their homes that are adjacent? What kind of shielding is provided for that sort of thing in these data centers?
Well, the electricity generation would come out of the substation. So
Right.
then the electricity comes into the building. So the building is designed and engineered.
I just know that when you have a computer running next to other things, that it
Yeah.
causes interference. This is why we can't have our cell phones next to our microphones. So my concern is on a scale this size, has there been shown to be any kind of interference that it can occur when you have residential as close as there would be to this facility?
My understanding is no.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And as this is a public hearing, we like to hear from the public on these occasions. I know we've got a couple of people signed up to speak, and we'll start with them, but anyone else who wishes to speak can come forward to the microphone after these two gentlemen and state their name and address for the record. And first, I have Robert Osborne.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. My name is Robert Osborne with Core Electric Cooperative. I do have a presentation which I'd like to distribute, if it's okay, so that you have it, so you can see what I'm talking
About
about.
3 minutes.
Yes, sir. Robert Osborne, Director of Business Development, Core Electric Cooperative, 5496 North Highway 85, Sedalia, Colorado. I'm here tonight to represent Core Electric Cooperative, your utility here in Parker, Colorado. As you know, every resident, every business is served by us as Electric Cooperative. We're a nonprofit, so our members and our stability to provide reliable and cost-competitive electricity is first and foremost a priority of ours. Questions have been asked about data center in this particular site, and in our analysis, with respect to the infrastructure that we have here in Parker, the Compark substation, the adjacency of the proposed site and this overlay district makes this site a prime location for data center uses. Our Compark substation is available to serve 30 megawatts now and planning to serve capacity of 150 megawatts. The plan for this is not just specifically for this site, but if you look at the uses and adjacent to the Compark area, you have the Edge product that we just talked about, Charter Communications has data center, and there's some other users further in the county about a mile away that also relate to data center and telecom uses. So the substation is particularly designed to serve these types of loads. We also have the adjacency of the fiber line. I think Larry discussed that, and that fiber line allows the interconnectivity that a data center needs to produce and serve its customers. Everything we've done tonight, everything we've done over the past weeks in communicating has been backed up by a data center someplace. So we believe that having this type of use in Parker not only helps business grow here in Parker, but also business throughout Colorado. We talked about the financial impacts, and Larry gave some information. CORE has done a financial analysis of franchise excise tax and franchise sales tax that are collected on the sale of electricity. And we've estimated roughly $2.2 to $2.9 million annually would be collected in franchise fees and remitted back to the town of Parker. And that would go on for the life of the data center's use. As it continues to grow, that number would grow. So every year you would receive that amount of franchise fee. That equals 100% of what the town is currently serving and receiving from every member that we serve in CORE's service territory here in Parker. So it's a 100% increase to the town annually. The diversity of this user allows us to help our members have stable rates. We sell kilowatt hours. So every kilowatt hour has a portion of the fixed cost of the asset, the wires and the poles, in that rate. And by allowing us to have a large load user concentrated in one spot and using the substation to its highest capabilities helps us keep our costs stable because they will use a lot of kilowatt hours, paying more of the percentage of the fixed cost assets that we have. So our goal tonight is to propose support for this project so that we can help stabilize the rates for your citizens here in Parker, as well as our citizens across the 5,000 square miles we serve. Total benefits. Town of Parker, significant financial benefit. But also I think the benefit is that the applicant has stated that they're willing to work within architectural standards. There's some pictures that I've found of other data centers close to this proximity as well as across the country. And you can see they look like office buildings or municipal type government buildings. Typically data center customers want to look like a good part and complement the community. And I think we have a good commitment from the developer in that respect. A significant amount of revenue, as I mentioned, and also a stable business to be here for a long time to create jobs in this employment center. So with that, CORE represents that we support this project, and we hope that you would vote to support this and present it to council with recommendation for approval. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, TJ Sullivan.
TJ Sullivan, I'm the president and CEO of the Parker Chamber of Commerce, located at 19751 East Main Street, Unit R16 in Parker Station. Hello, commissioners. Good evening. No, I've not met you all, so nice to meet you. Thank you for your commitment to the town. The Parker Chamber's Government Affairs Committee would like to go on record as supporting the rezoning proposal that will permit the development of Westside Investment Partners' proposed data center. Our GAC recently issued its 2024 pillars outlining its priorities for the local business community. One of those is the promotion of economic vitality of the town, specifically to support infrastructure that attracts more job-creating primary employers. The jobs and the potential tax and fee revenues provide short-term justifications for this rezoning. However, the long-term impact of drawing high-tech investment within our borders is the real prize. This $400 million capital investment could provide an anchor for additional high-tech investment and development. For the Chamber, this is simply a matter of proactive economic development. As skilled jobs and higher salaried workers increase in the Compark area, there will be additional use opportunities like the light industrial, retail, and commercial that the town envisions in its master plan. If we are serious about expanding Parker's primary employer base beyond the retail and healthcare sectors, then we need to take action to encourage the development of tech sector uses. While this specific project does not have significant jobs impact, we believe it can act as a seed for more jobs in the tech and information sector. CORE has assured us that the data and power infrastructure exists in close proximity to support this proposed use, and the placement of this business could attract more high-tech enterprises reliant on similar infrastructure. CORE says that costs for services and traffic mitigation would be minimal. We trust you and the staff better to evaluate the veracity of these claims, but even if the impact exceeds CORE's estimates, investments in these areas would pay dividends from an economic development standpoint. Generally, we support moves that would strengthen Parker's dominant utility provider. A stronger utility is good for all of Parker's businesses and residents. The South Metro Denver area is poised for a huge boom in tech-based industry and development. The E470 corridor is the essential artery for high-tech development between DIA and I-25, and this project represents one foundational opportunity to demonstrate the town's commitment to attracting the jobs, capacities, and uses that will dominate the next generation of industry. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Seeing no one else, we will close the public comment. Any further questions for Stacy or the applicant?
I have one additional question. Was raised by the gentleman from the president of the Chamber of Commerce. What types of ancillary jobs would be developed? I'm not sure who in the room can answer this, but we're talking about, this is supposed to be a jobs-based sort of area, business employment. So, and we've said, that we're going to attract more tech. What kind of tech? I'm curious as to what kind of tech would be attracted by a data center and what additional tech jobs would be, and what kinds of jobs would they be? Would they, if I have 50 people coming into town to work and they're all making $100,000 a year, that's great. If I got 50 people coming into town to work and they're all making minimum wage, that's not as great. So I'm trying to get an idea of that, as well as the nature and the size and the kind of ancillary jobs that would be created.
Sure. Thank you, Commissioner. The way that a data center functions, there are some that are occupied entirely by, let's say, Amazon or Google or Chase Bank or somebody. The more likely scenario in this case is that it would be multi-tenanted. So let's just say, for argument's sake, there are 5 separate tenants within this building. The operator, the owner of the real estate, that would be the landlord leasing to other users, they would have employees which staff the building, and they're responsible for building maintenance and maintaining the technology that's necessary, keeping the lights on, monitoring the backup systems, monitoring the utilities, monitoring all of the operations of the site. So that would be those are good paying tech jobs, and those people, that's the rub, is that there aren't that many of those people who would come and staff the building. However, each of the users then has to bring in its own employees or consultants to monitor their piece of the building. And again, these are high-paying tech jobs. So, we were estimating 30 to 50 employees and consultants that would staff the data center. And then each of these people would in turn, bring others to the site if necessary. These people would be based in the town. These people would be highly paid employees who could then spend money at Costco or King Soopers or other sales tax generators in town. Is that helpful?
Yeah, but I'm curious, because it's being billed as this is something that will attract additional new other tech to Parker. How would it do that?
Well, this type of use is I'm trying to think of a good term. It's a technological category leader, and having this type of use in the area attracts other tech users. you know, it sort of further cements the town's position as a technological leader in the Front Range, and it sends the message to that community that the town of Parker is tech savvy and tech friendly and is looking for additional tech jobs.
The other question I have is, in the figures you provided us for the additional net revenue, you gave us 1.5 to 1.7 million over 10 years.
Yeah, let me.
And CORE
Yeah.
just gave me some really good numbers. They're kind of amazing, of like 2.9 per year.
So I wasn't clear on that, Commissioner. I apologize. The fiscal impact study projects 1.5 to 1.7 net per annum.
Per
not
year.
Total. Yeah.
Okay.
So per annum over the 10 years that are in the projection.
Okay, so over 10 years, you multiply that number
By 10.
times 10, right? Okay. All right, thank you.
I have some questions about the sort of maybe attached, maybe not attached parcel that may or may not become part of the data overlay.
Yes. Jeff, can you put up any of the maps real quick? Doesn't matter. So what we're talking about is, so on the south side of Collin Park Boulevard, there is 13.72 acres that is currently zoned commercial retail. That portion is being rezoned to business employment. That leaves 3.3 acres right at the hard southwest corner. So you can kind of see it in this map. It's almost a shade of green. That will remain commercial retail. So if a data center isn't developed, that would be commercial retail. So that could be another gas station if it wanted to be. It could be not a daycare center because that's across the street. It could be a restaurant. It could be any of those business, service, commercial uses. But if a data center does come, it has the overlay over the top of it so that it could be developed as one cohesive unit. So the 13.72 plus 3.3, getting you to about 17 acres or more to develop as a data center.
And I'm probably talking to the wrong person, but I'm do you need that amount of acreage in order to have the right size data center? Is that why it's in the overlay?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. Yes, the data centers like scale. The larger the property, the larger the building they can build. And the way that they invest in these facilities, scale is very important because they spend an inordinate amount per square foot to build the building, to put in the redundant power and fire suppression and all of the technology that's created and installed into these buildings. It turns into an extremely expensive building. So larger is better for them.
So help me understand a little bit. So we've got, we're proposing to go into business employment for the rest, but not for that section, except that we're adding that section to the data center overlay.
Right. So if a data center doesn't develop on this site, the 3.3 acres would remain commercial retail. However, if a data center develops on the whole 17 acres, PA 10A and PA 10, then the retail would go away from the hard corner and it would become a data center.
So it's not business employment, but it would become essentially quasi-business employment because of the data center overlay?
Right. The overlay would trump the commercial retail. So we're trying to preserve the commercial retail, except in the case of a data center, because as positive as a commercial retail site would be for the town, the data center is more positive from a fiscal standpoint.
And staff wanted that 3.3 acres to remain commercial retail. As the master plan kind of outlays, is ancillary uses and those commercial retail uses should be at Chambers and Com Park. And so because of that, we really wanted that corner, what's left of it, to remain as commercial retail. The 3.3 acres was negotiated to make sure that you could get at least access to that site specifically.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you. You okay? All right, with that, we will adjourn the public hearing and move on to commissioner discussion.
You want me to start, or you want to start?
Well, I was just going to acknowledge there's a lot going on here and appreciate the work that the town did, the applicant, all the partners involved. You know, this is a monumental task, and I really appreciate the thoughtfulness in addressing some of the items where they maybe don't match or align with the 9 criteria. Overall, I think there's I'm personally a huge proponent of bringing jobs into Parker and not making Parker this bedroom community where everybody leaves town to go to work. And I think this could be a great catalyst for that area and for the town to say, hey, listen, we want this kind of stuff. We want these jobs. And I could ramble on, but in short, I do support this change. I appreciate the overlay. I don't think it's going to be overly impactful making this change to the town, and I think it's going to be a huge economic benefit if we get the data center. So I'm in support.
So as I listened to the presentations, especially the presentation by the applicant, I took detailed notes on what I found persuasive that I felt that the staff could rely on. One of the things I found very persuasive is the fact that we have no data center, and so a need exists for the rezoning because it's a brand-new kind of zoning that we've never had before. So it's a zoning that back in 1998 would not have been even considered. So it's a new, a great change that has occurred in how the world works. And so the clarification regarding a data center use. Also somewhat persuasive is the idea that the retail is in that area is not something that's, certainly going to happen at this point. As the applicant said, and I do agree, that ship has sailed. Is it the correct site? That's another concern that we had. The closeness to the core and the fiber system makes this an ideal site to try to do this sort of thing in. The access I found less persuasive because we can always make new driveways. But I did find that to be persuasive. Also persuasive was land use 1.c, the economic base expansion, the additional revenue to the town that this would bring in, I think is tremendous. Number 4, the significant changes. Over the past 10 years, there have been a lot of changes in the market conditions, and the idea of a data center is something that is new. So that's a significant change, I think. There is some disparity on the commission here as to what constitutes a significant change. I find that market and demographic changes are part of what a significant change is, and so I find that persuasive also. Looking at the employment, the fact that this is supposed to be a business employment district and the number of employees. This is the one where I had the most difficulty. However, I do find persuasive that it will attract enough employees from other industries, from other tech coming in, that using that as a magnet. I think that is a persuasive argument. The building scale is not going to be that different from things that would go up in that area anyway. The strong support shown by the utilities, the SVMD and CORE, I think speaks to the fact that it is something that can be done successfully here. So I will be in support of this.
Glad I didn't follow that one. Glad I didn't follow I will follow it.
You know, frankly, I agree with a lot that's already been said. I think this is, when you look at this location and its proximity to the substation and kind of the scale of the buildings around in that area already and what has already been developed, and, you know, when you look at it, what would potentially make its way, I think, you know, that is a correct assumption that, you know, a lot of those things that were initially thought will not make it in that area. So overall, I would say I am in agreement with this, and I think it certainly makes sense for, you know, the location is right. You know, we will provide this data center overlay, which will, you know, really set the standard of what we're looking at.
Okay.
Yes, I do agree that there is a need for this sort of proposal, seeing as we don't have anywhere in town currently that would accept this proposed use. I do also see in particular that this is the right place, specifically because of the substation. And so I am also in support of the applicant's proposal.
Well, I appreciate Mr. Jacobson and your team and the information that you put forward to help us, you know, kind of move towards this decision. There's not a lot of applicants that come before this, so we'll go to that effort to explain kind of, sometimes we just get, well, we want to do this because we want to do this. Yeah. Okay. You know, and I appreciate your explanation. I appreciate hearing from CORE and their, you know, ability to meet the need and help them and the town at the same time. So yes, I am in favor of it as well. Do we have a motion?
I move the Planning Commission recommend Town Council approve the Compark Village Plan Development 6th Amendment rezoning.
I will second.
It's been moved by Eric and seconded by Eric, and we're all going to change our name to Eric. That the Planning Commission recommend Town Council approve the Compark Village Plan Development 6th Amendment rezoning. I will call the question. Eric?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Ruth Ann?
Aye.
Jane?
Aye.
And the chair is aye. It passes unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Stacy. Thank you, applicants.
Stacy, I really like this idea of the overlay that you came up with, and I think that was a very elegant solution to the issues that you saw, and I commend you on it.
Thank you.
All right. Any items for the commission, Bryce?
No, sir, there are not.
Okay. Do we have a move to adjourn?
I move the Planning Commission adjourn the January 25th meeting.
I second the motion.
All right, I'll call the question then. It's been moved that we adjourn. Eric?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Ruth Ann?
Aye.
Jane?
Aye.
Chair is aye. Good night, all.